Hi, I'm Jason, and today I'd like to talk to you about the Proxy Controversy. In Magic the Gathering, and I'm sure many other trading card games, cards can be expensive. It's not uncommon for a single card to cost $20, $50, $100 or more if it's powerful in many formats. But even if you fork out the cash to get that card, well, you still need 59 or 99 more cards to finish your deck, which makes it easy for a single deck to cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Fortunately, there's a simple way to play with the cards you desire without spending the cash. Proxies. Bet you didn't know I was going to say that. It's not like it's the title of the video or anything. A proxy is anything that stands in place of a card. For example, you can write on the backs of your cards what card they're proxying, insert a piece of paper that says that card's name, print out an image of that card, or even print off a realistic cardstock version. Sometimes my proxies aren't even physical, they're verbal. If I pull out my deck to play and decide I want to see how a new card will play in the deck, I might just say out loud, hey, the Baneslayer Angel in this deck is actually going to be a healing salve for this game. I'm trying it out, I guess. Of course, I would only do this in a fairly casual environment where I'm familiar with the players, and only if there was no other viable way to make a proxy at that moment. I would never do this with people I don't know. Unfortunately, many Magic the Gathering players don't appreciate proxies, to the point where some people refuse to play against decks that use them. Here are some of the reasons people don't believe proxies are good for the game. Many players make the argument that proxies are bad for LGSs and WotC because it doesn't support those businesses. They think if you have $10, why would you spend it at your LGS on a $10 card when you can buy a proxy of that card for $1 or 10 cents? In their mind, if you remove the possibility to play with proxies, the LGS will receive those $10 as they were supposed to. But say Timmy has $10 to spend on Magic, but he needs a $20 card to complete his deck, so he doesn't go to FNM and doesn't spend money at his LGS. Now say Timmy learns about proxying. He proxies that $20 card, has a fun afternoon playing Magic at his LGS, and decides to spend that $10 on drinks and booster packs. Proxying doesn't mean not supporting your LGS. Sometimes it just means supporting them in a different, more affordable way. Another argument against proxies is that some people will take it to the extreme and proxy very powerful decks, forcing other players to buy expensive cards or proxy cards in order to keep up. This is a faulty argument because 1, you are not forced to play with a player you don't want to. 2, just because your deck is cheaper doesn't mean it's less powerful, especially when it comes to a multiplayer game like Commander. Speaking of Commander, number 3, if your opponent is playing a deck clearly out of the league of other decks at the table, they should probably find a table with more similar quality decks. If they bring a CEDH deck to your casual table, it doesn't matter whether the deck contains proxies or not, it's not going to be a fair fight. That's not an issue with proxies, just an issue with deck compatibility. Commander is a format of unique deck building, therefore you shouldn't need to proxy the best cards. A lot of the fun comes from finding replacement cards until you can acquire the cards you want. This is an argument I saw a lot, saying basically that the journey is more important than the destination. Except, proxying cards doesn't prevent this. Maybe you get closer to a finished version of the deck with proxies, but every card needs to be tested to see if it works in your deck effectively. I can proxy a card that I later decide isn't right for the deck, based on the meta, its interaction with my other cards, or a handful of other reasons. Also, expensive cards aren't always played in lots of decks, or even good. City in a Bottle is just shy of $400, but it's obviously garbage. Maybe it's good for your meta though, so you want to proxy it. Who knows? These arguments, and basically every argument I've heard against proxies, has some issues. Sometimes there are reasons people don't like proxies, but no good reasons why people shouldn't be allowed to use them. Now, let's look at the benefits of proxying. The biggest benefit from proxying is lowering the barrier of entry for players. While constructing a Commander deck recently, I decided I was going to proxy cards, my first time doing so, other than, quick paper inserts. I proxied roughly 40 cards and it cost me $20 to get high quality cardstock proxies, about 50 cents a piece. If I had purchased real versions of those same cards from Card Kingdom, it would have cost over $350. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, if I hadn't proxied those cards, I wouldn't have spent $350 on Card Kingdom or at my LGS. I just wouldn't have built the deck. And me not building the deck doesn't benefit my LGS, it just means I'm less likely to come in to play Magic the Gathering. Another reason to use proxies is to try out a card or two, or yes, even a whole deck, to see if you enjoy it before spending hundreds of dollars to find that it's not fun or that a card doesn't work. If I spend $20 on a Cyclonic Rift because I want to try it in a deck, and I don't like it there and take it out, then that's $20 I could have put towards a card I actually will end up keeping in that deck. A third benefit to proxying is it can just save you money, period. If you're willing to spend however much it costs to build a deck, then spending $20 instead of $350 leaves you with $330 to spend on whatever else. Other Magic cards or other hobbies. Yes, there are other hobbies than Magic the Gathering. Or maybe it'll allow you to be responsible, pay your bills, pay down your credit card, while still being able to buy the Magic cards you want to play with. There's also a group of players in between full acceptance of proxies and full rejection. These players are generally okay with proxies as long as you own a copy of that card already. For example, if you have one Tropical Island but two Simic decks, they find it acceptable to proxy the dual land for the second deck so that I don't have to switch it back and forth again and again. This idea of having to own the card helps people with multiple decks but does nothing for people with a single deck or only a few decks of different colors or themes. The problem with this argument is, are these people saying you must own all the cards in your deck? What if you're borrowing a card from a friend? Is that unacceptable? If it is acceptable, can I also proxy a card that my friend would be willing to lend me if it wasn't already in his deck? And if I have to own it, can I just pass my friend $1 before every game I play and then sell it back to them afterwards? Is it a question of whether I can afford the card I'm proxying? What if I didn't have a copy of the card, but I could show a card of equivalent value to prove I could have bought it if I wanted to? Is the point to only allow a single piece of cardboard to be represented in one game at a time? Then while I'm proxying the card from my other deck, is that first deck unplayable? My friend can't start a game with that deck until my match is finished? It's all arbitrary. There's no good reason why you should have to own the card to proxy it, and it's pretty easy to work around that rule if you really wanted to. The bottom line is, most players who use proxies aren't doing it to stiff their LGS. They're doing it because they can't afford the expensive cards that they want and sometimes need to play a format. Allowing proxies can actually grant more players access to the decks and formats they want to play, increasing the number of people showing up at their local game store. Restricting or stigmatizing proxies won't make players spend money they don't have on real versions of that cardboard. It'll only serve to shut them out of the type of Magic they want to play altogether. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and let us know what you think of proxies. What other benefits are there to playing proxies? Or if you think that you have an argument for why not to play proxies that I didn't consider, maybe mention that in the comments as well, and we can have a little bit of a discussion. Thanks for watching.